If I were to preach today on the first Sunday of Advent, it would be the 36th time I would do so, and if Deacon Bob did it, it'd be the 41st. So we decided that the newbie who has never preached the first Sunday of Advent should begin today. So thank you, Deacon Chris.
He always knows how to make me nervous. I'm sure that one thing that we all did this morning was look in a mirror, something that we do each morning as part of our routine. Now, I know you're all probably wondering by the looks of this beard if I haven't looked in a mirror lately, but I assure you I have. Advent, the season that we begin today, is a time for you and for me to look in the mirror. So often in Advent, we focus on preparing for Christ's coming at Christmas. And if you go into any store or just drive down the street, there are candles in windows, Christmas trees galore, and songs singing that it's the most wonderful time of the year. But while society and consumerism tell us that this is what Advent, this period from now until Christmas, is all about, the church reminds us that the first half of Advent, the focus is really on Christ's second coming at the end of time. Much more than a chocolate advent calendar or a countdown to Christmas, if you ask me. And while many may be tempted to grumble or say that the church or a preacher is like an Ebenezer Scrooge, I think that if we look at Advent through a different lens, we can actually see the first part as a gift. Why? Because while our culture tells us to get busy, the church tells us to quiet down and to take a look within. Advent can be our refuge from the crazy stress that comes with this time of year. We can find an inner peace that our hearts so desire, but can only find in God Himself. The gospel we just heard from Matthew reminds us of the reality of the second coming. That at an hour we do not expect, the Son of Man will come. While we do not know when, we do know that Christ will come again. And Jesus urges the disciples to prepare, and thus so too should we be prepared, should it happen very soon. Like many things, sometimes our preparations for that final day fall through the cracks. I know at times they have for myself. Thus, Advent is the time of year that we must be reminded that should our King come again anytime soon, and for us to reevaluate our level of preparation. And change might be a part of that. I think we can look to today's second reading, when Paul reminds the Romans, and you and I this morning, to cast off the deeds of darkness, things of this world that we might fall into. Are we willing to cast off the deeds of darkness and put on the armor of light? Are we willing to match the preparations that we make on the outside this season with a similar preparation on the inside? Friends, this Advent is the time to look in the mirror at the quality of our life. We can ask ourselves, what is my prayer life like? Could I grow deeper in my prayer this Advent so that my heart is more ready to receive Christ not only at Christmas, but when we meet each other face to face? Is daily Mass possible? Perhaps during Advent, on my commute to work or school, I can avoid listening to the radio and use that time as a time of conversation or prayer with God. And beginning today, this year at Christ the King, we've purchased a subscription to the Hallow app. So it's free for you to use from now, actually through Easter. And there's a QR code at the two doors you can scan, and it provides wonderful opportunities to grow in your prayer each and every day. How are my relationships? How do I treat my friends, my loved ones, my spouse, my fiance, my coworkers, classmates, or even my enemies? Do I love them, even though I might struggle to like them? Sometimes I think we find ourselves looking into a two-way mirror, focusing on the problems of the other instead of our own. Perhaps this Advent we can pick someone to pray for and lift them up in prayer. What things have crept into my life that I need to change? Paul gave us an extensive list of things of this world that may or may not have crept into our own lives. But the reality is that sin creeps in, and without taking a step back, we might not realize it. And on that note, has it been a while since I've received the mercy of God in celebrating the sacrament of reconciliation? If so, perhaps Advent could be a time to return. The Lord awaits us with open arms, and our King is always ready to forgive, if only we acknowledge our need to be forgiven. Change is difficult, and admitting something about ourselves, be it our attitude, our actions, or where we fail, is even more difficult. But by doing so, we can come to understand that we are far more loved by God than we could ever imagine, and how much we truly long to be with Him forever. We've all had the experience of the mirror getting fogged up because of steam from the shower, or frost on the car window, or needing a good cleaning with Windex. But when we fail to look in the mirror of our own lives, of our souls and our hearts, the mirror can get dirty, and it can be hard to see where I need to change. That's the gift that we call self-awareness. Perhaps Advent could be our opportunity to grow in that. One of the many things that I love about Advent is that the timing for this call to deeper conversion and inner reflection couldn't be any better. Why? Because today is a fresh start. Today we begin a new year of grace, a new liturgical year. We hear from Cycle A, where we'll hear primarily from Matthew's Gospel. And while many of us may attempt to make a New Year's resolution in just over a month at the turn of the calendar year, to lose weight, to eat healthy, to exercise more, at least that's what I need to do. Whatever it might be, maybe today we can make a spiritual New Year's resolution to change on the inside and put it into effect this Advent. Only ourselves and Christ will know. Our doctors and our trainers won't hold us accountable. Friends, as we gather on this first day of this new year, on this first morning of Advent, may you and I quietly look within and resolve to make this Advent the best Advent ever. May we see that Advent, amidst this hustle and bustle, is truly a gift that we have received. A time to look in the mirror, a time to see how my life reflects or does not reflect that of a disciple, and a time to remind ourselves how loved we are by God. If we do so, one day we too will be able to live out the words of the psalmist and go rejoicing into the house of the Lord.